Go down, but it's live, back live now.
Server still streaming. Says it is. It's still sending data. They have to restart it. Restart it.
Yeah, well, we lost YouTube. Alright, now it's showing them live. I just switched back.
On YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that.
Hey, Kyle, how you doing?
That doesn't make any sense. I'll have to dig through the logs and see why that happened.
No, it's not giving me. It's not giving me the live option on.
May have to refresh. Possum Bayou, how you doing?
Yes, a lot of.
Well, at least this time, my hopefully recording kept going, so I can. Guys, just got the last week's put together from all the pieces, so I can repost it. Not exactly sure what happened, Dale.
Oh, yeah.
Twice.
Are you outside? If you go outside?
I'll know in a few minutes, but we may have dropped the fiber for a second. That would
Yeah.
be right, but it's possible. We have been having a lot of trouble geographically around here, but mostly with power, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, so look for some of those shows coming up later this year.
Yeah. And we also got something a little new that Big Bill dreamed up. We're going to have, it's called Point and Counterpoint, which we are going to start out having Andy and our own Mr. Ralph here having discussions on different topics. So
I know that's going to seem odd to everybody that that they've talked to me and Ralph and tried to debate something, but
Yeah.
That's a nightly basis. Oh wow.
And so if any of y'all that do watch out there and you got some subjects you'd like to see them discussed, let us know.
you can find things that we agree on the vast majority of things, but the few things we disagree about, we disagree quite passionately.
Yeah. So if you got any subjects you'd like to hear discussed, be sure to let us know. And this is open to anyone too, so if anyone else wants to come in and be on Point and Counterpoint, you're welcome to come in. It's basically, we'll have the subject, there'll be, 15 minutes about each for the discussion, and then we'll do a wind up, and then we'll let the Q&A ask questions. Or
Big Bill says it'll be a bare knuckle slugfest.
yeah.
Clean fire, both ways, fellas.
Yeah. Also, Joe's Train Room, he's coming back, and but he's only going to be with us all the way through December with Joe's Train Room. His wife is expecting, so he's going to take maternity leave starting in 2020 for a little while, but he says he definitely is coming back. We've had discussions. Ralph said he'd like to do some weathering, a little more specific work and stuff on equipment and different materials. So sometime January, February, he'll start putting on a few shows there. So that's just part of what all we got coming up in the new season. Eric said 5-pound sledge full on beat down. You bring a bat full of nails and we will call it a rumble. And Big Bill said, nice shirt, Andy.
Yes, sir. Coming today. Unboxed it 5 minutes before as I was walking in the door to get on here.
Yeah, I haven't been able to make it into town. Gotta do that tomorrow. Get my mail. Over on Twitch, Farm Mechanic 71. Andy, looks like some cable management is needed behind you. LOL.
Oh, no question. It's all it started out as just I wanted to do away with having so much infrastructure at the house, but everything I thought about it. Part of the reason that I picked auto railroading a few years ago to get back into a hobby. I mean, I'd always been an armchair modeler, even when I wasn't. Regardless, decided to try to do it more actively because it wasn't so much technology, and I could get away from my day job. But now that I'm building Arduinos and complex Wi-Fi architectures, Raspberry Pis, custom operating systems, all to run, to run all this custom software to run a layout. It's just as technological as anything else I do professionally. In fact, the systems that run on the Raspberry Pis are exactly the same software systems that I use in my data centers to host some 700 or 800 web pages on. So I use the exact same software to run JMRI.
Yeah, but it's a lot more fun building train stuff, isn't it?
No question. It gives me the ability to. Well, I mean, the thing that most people speak to about model railroading that makes model railroading such a spectacular hobby for people, for makers, people who like to make things, and I would argue it's one of the greatest opportunities we have in the hobby for this hobby to begin growing again. And I think that it could be the absolute highlight era of our hobby could be ahead of us instead of the 60s and 70s behind us, as I think the NMRA, possibly Compact, possibly think that the great era of million model railroaders in this country kind of thing is behind us because we're not even making the trade center in the Christmas tree. But in the era of makers, with so many people messing with Raspberry Pis and all this stuff, we're in such an awesome era to take those people who like to build stuff with their hands or to mess with CNCs. This CNC router sitting behind me under the desk. People who like to mess with that stuff, the 3D printers, etc. Model railroading is a great hobby that gives us that one thing that everybody speaks to so awesome, the diversity of the hobby. Every model railroader is a bit of an amateur carpenter, electronics enthusiast, or software engineer, painter, sculptor, cinematographer.
I definitely agree with you. I mean, if you want to model well, you need to collect skills. You need to be able to adapt to whatever the situation in your life is and learn how to do it, or find somebody that does. That's what I like about the internet so much now, and the YouTube in this group is I knew a lot of stuff, but between everybody else on there, now we know everything almost. I'm not saying that we know everything, but your knowledge base has gone so much more, because besides just like writing on a forum and asking a question, we have cameras that we can move and say, look, I have this problem here, or how do I wire this here?
And it's not some generic person that you don't know who they are.
Exactly.
If you ask Ralph's opinion on how to achieve some effect, one, you've talked to him and become friends with him over a period of time, or watched him. For the guys who watch more, you watched him for a while. You know how much you should trust what he says, and it's a lot. But and you could say that about all of us. That to any of us that you listen to, you could see, exactly how much does your opinion align with any of us that you see in the community. So, and it's not that there's such a great collection of skills in our community, and there are, but there's a great collection of skills in any community. But what you get here is to determine whose skills you should trust, and it's not that our community. Whereas if you went out on the internet to research how should you build this structure that you want to build, you're going to get one person who says this is the way to do it, and there's not another alternative. That's the right way, and everything else is the wrong way. Don't do it. What you're going to get from us is if there's 7 or 8 of us in here, you'll get at least 10 or 11 opinions about how to do it. We'll support any opinion you want to do, but you'll get the arguments of good, bad, and indifferent, and you'll get multiple arguments. Like me and Ralph tend to pitch against each other all the time to draw out the best opinion from the entire community, so that you can get that way is best for you. Because it's not so much that there's a right way or a wrong way to do it. That's true. There are right ways and wrong ways, but there's a lot of right ways. You got to figure out what right way you prefer.
Or which one works better for you.
Exactly. And fits with your goals and,
your goals and your abilities.
That's right. But what you get here is a massive collection of opinions that are well founded, well backed, and we can often. The great thing about cameras, this interactivity, is that I can show you a couple of the ones that I've done with some particular technique. Ralph can show a couple of the others he has with his technique. Share a picture or two, point you at a couple more favorites. It's more like what we used to do at the hobby shop many years ago, with every Friday evening, a dozen guys were sitting around, drinking the free coffee. It's much closer to that. Not exactly the same, but I would say in many ways better than improved. But
Let me know if Jim starts talking. I'll unmute him. He's scratching the camera around, so.
this camera's itching.
Yeah. Well, let me know so I can unmute him.
I think he's okay. He's okay, John.
All right. I was getting a lot of background from it.
You need a mic that's local to where you are. Half the time I can't hear what you're saying.
It doesn't work off at a distance very well. That's why. But I don't like those headsets like what you guys wear. I just don't like it. Don't like wearing headphones that well. I don't buy the little earbuds, but they don't sound. The microphones in them are fairly weak. I bought a lavalier mic, a wireless lav mic, and but I've had the same one Johnny's got, but I've had nothing but try. I have not been able to get it to work. So
You don't have the same one I got. You got just a little bit different model.
right, it's the same brand. It's whatever the current model of it is.
Yeah, I think you just got one that had some bad electronics.
I think so too. I really need to contact the vendor and probably send it back to him. I probably should have bought the Rode version, but they had $200 for a wireless mic.
Nah, that one I got works just great. It's got great sensitivity to it. I mean, you've used it at the shows interviewing people, so.
It works like that. That's why I bought that one, because I had the experience with yours. It works so well.
Yeah.
And sitting here, I could use my big mic. And in my trade room, I've now got that 5 microphone array on that new camera that I got. But if I want to be able to move around, I need wireless.
Eric said, first question you need to ask yourself, have you been to someone else's layout that runs operations? If not, visit one and then as many as you can.
No question. If that's possible for you, number one, if that's possible, without a doubt, you should try that. And for many people, that is possible, but not always. So that is there's no better way than to have done it to develop some skill. But even then, you still have to answer a series of questions. Even an experienced bottler has to answer a series of questions about how serious you want to be, how complex of a game you want to play. Operations is a role playing game, and you've got to decide: do you want to play Go Fish, the equivalent of Go Fish, where there's no thinking involved in it? You want to run trades on a CTC dispatch system where the dispatcher gets to have a lot of fun and everybody who's running trades is effectively, um, you know, driving through rush hour and stopping at red lights. That's what I feel from CTC. Not everybody has the same opinions about that, though. You have to find what's interesting to you. I like timetable and trade order because the onus of operations is on the engineer conductor, on the team, or on the person who's running the trade. You have to think and make decisions.
How you doing, Andrew? He just popped in. Eric's got on here. To be honest, you, as in most people, don't really know what they want in operations. They have dreams of operations, but do not have a clue what they really want in operations. So,
And even if they have a good idea of possibly parts of it that they want, because it's hard to nail down. I agree completely. It's hard to nail that down. It's often quite hard to balance what you care about with what's accomplishable, because meeting operation schemes are not accomplishable or will not engage with enough fellow model railroaders to get it to want to come to your house to operate on a recurring basis so that you can operate as a social exercise. People have to enjoy that operation. There's this balancing act. I think about a railroad operation as an extension of the selective compression that we do in all the rest of our modeling. We selectively compress the operation. We don't model the things that we can get away with not modeling. We don't model necessarily the backs of buildings, and we don't necessarily model other things that are unnecessary in our actual construction. As such, we don't model some of the boring paperwork. I go to somebody's layout and they start, they hand me out example accident reports and stuff. I'm going to think they went over the top of it. So there's an amount of paperwork you need to do to make the playing of a game fun. And then there's taking it too far. I mean, there's several regular board games that have been proven successful throughout history, Monopoly and other boards such as that, because they're complex enough to be engaging, challenging even, and yet still fun to play, and fun enough to play that the vast majority of people can play that competently. If you make it too complex, it's going to be impossible for a visitor to show up and figure out how to operate with you. So.
here comes Mr. Robert. And over here in Twitch, we got CPR Train. How you doing? He said the video's great.
We have Twitch 1080p.
Yeah. But
Not impressed. Good stuff. What's going on, Robert?
What's up, boys?
How are you, sir?
Doing well.
yeah, Michael Conley said, which comes first, Andy? Car forwarding or operations? Or does it matter? Here we go again.
In my opinion, car forwarding is the last thing to figure out. How to figure out your freight and revenue service is the last thing you should think about. You've got to figure out how trains move, and there's two parts to it. There's authorization or permission, and there's protection. CTC does both. ABS only provides protection. And you have to figure out how you're going to tell trade. In a car, everybody asks them, how you going to operate your railroad? They tell me car cards and waybills. I don't know what that means. That if you're sitting here with a stack of cards in your hand, when can your trade move? And how far can it go? Just having a stack of cards and you just take off and go do the work means you're going to have a cornfield beat. Something has to tell that trade when it can move. My personal favorites are timetable and trade order, and in the modern era, track warrants. Or some balancing combination of those. Timetable and trade order was popular into the 70s. If you're modeling the 80s and up, track warrants are absolutely spectacular, and you can kind of stretch the rules a bit to use track warrants back in the 70s. Otherwise, it was most of the time Tumbler Trade Order or CTC. But with CTC, the onus is not on you to figure things out. The dispatcher tells you when to go, and you go. And all yours are knob turner.
All right, over here on Twitch, Farm Mechanic 71. I will watch MRL here from now on. The video and audio is 100% better. CPR Train. I'm very interested in operations and have 30 years experience. It is an area of the hobby that many mall railroaders never experience. Operations must be fun, but should be challenging.
Yep. It's a balance. And something that I think you can do that not enough people give credit to is that one layout at a single operating session with a group of 6 or 7 guys can be quite a different experience between guy 2 and guy 5. You could customize the experience in that same operating session around the type of guy that's operating. A local operator, a dispatcher, a yard guy will be a very different experience than a road crew. So you can adjust if you plan for it. It's best if you plan for it. But if you plan for it, you can adjust it. So if you have a new guy, you can put him on a passenger train or a first class express road train. And you can give the more challenging trains, the extras and such like that, to your more experienced crews, the guys that like the complexity and challenge.
Yeah, Andrew said he'll catch us later. It's walk time. He's up to 4 kilometers per day now. Very good, Andrew.
Yeah.
That's probably about 3 miles, Bill.
Yeah, something like that. 2.5. 2.5.
Oh, Ralph's getting the ruler out.
No, I'm not. It's just out of tweezers.
That's one of the best things I spent money on was buying a real good set of tweezers. Like no joke, more expensive than I ever would have thought justifiable pair of tweezers. Makes a lot of difference.
I'm putting a locomotive back together.
Where you got a part? What kind of locomotive?
An SD40 Santa Fe.
All right.
Yeah.
A doggone Santa Fe. At least like somebody trying to catch it on fire.
Yeah. It's like the dynamic brake is getting a little overheated. A little extra work. I do not like Kato couplers.
Oh, they have their own couplers. That's one area that I have relatively strong opinion. If you want things to run reliably, you have to standardize. If you're going to run KDs, you've got to run KDs. Just skip McHenry's. It's not worth the trouble. KDs. If you're going to run number 5s, you can run the 148s, 158 city scales. They are technically compatible, but they're not perfect. If you want the best running, best reliable performance, the same couplers everywhere would give you a better experience.
I was just talking to Tim earlier before the show about that because we got to get some for John. So we were pulling a few cars around that had problems because of the couplers.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, all of his is horn hook anyway.
Oh, God.
I was looking at 158s, but
That's my preference.
148 is the equivalent of a number 5.
Yeah.
148. Okay.
Yeah.
It's the larger.
So that gives you the standard shank, the same shank that's on a number 5 coupler. If you want a number 158, it's a little bit longer.
Okay.
But they have the 3-digit number, the 148, 158, 138, 168, they all have whiskers on the bolster of the
Yeah.
shank.
The 158 is what they call the scale coupler. The 148 is like Ralph just said, the 148 is the replacement for the number 5. So it's the larger knuckle traditionally. In John's case, I think that's probably preferable. It's a
Yeah.
little less finicky. Well, I mean, like if you're going to use magnets, the number 5s are probably better. If you're going to use a pick, the number 5s are better if you're shaky or less sure of yourself. If you can deal with city scales, I like them much better. I like the look of them much better, obviously. But if you're going to run city scales, you're better to run them everywhere. KD calls it a scale coupler. I'm reluctant to call that scale. I call it, city scale. Same thing happens in wheel sets. You've got 3 different standards of wheel sets. The RP25 wheel sets, NMRA standard. It's not a pizza cutter, but it is quite large. And then you've got city scales. Some companies call them scale, but they're not scale. They're city scale. And then you've got the P87 or the Proto 87 scale wheel sets. And those are finicky. You cannot run them on standard HO scale track.
Yeah, but for John, I guess that would be the RP25s, or like Tim and I were talking about the 110s.
Well, the RP25 is the standard.
Yeah, it's 110. It's whatever
Okay.
that 110 standard is. It's the standard. Now, if you go back in time and get some of the early tacos and stuff, what everybody calls pizza cutters, they are not RP25. They are deeper and larger and out of proportion even from RP25. RP25, the tread, the width of the flat or slope, but flat wheel tread of the tires, roughly twice the size of what it should be, but the flange is about 3 times what it should be. But the RP25 is very, very forgiving.
Yeah, well, he's running code 100, so.
Yeah, but you could run absolutely anything down to Pro 87. You cannot run Pro 87, but it's not because of the rail. It's because of the frogs. If you did not have a turnout on your layout, you could put Proto 87 scale wheels and run it on Code 100 Atlas Flex Track. It'd run just like I've got those wheel sets. It'd run just fine. It won't go through the frogs of a standard RP25 frogs that are designed for RP25s. Or if it does so, it will do so very inelegantly. It'll bounce a lot.
I got farm mechanic asked Ralph, when are you going to do the weathering videos? That'll be after December when Joe's finished up.
Yep.
You want to kind of give him a quick insight of what you might be thinking on doing?
Well, there's 2 locomotives that I promised that I would do from start to finish. So there will be some pre-recorded video so that it doesn't take up the time with the on camera all the time doing small stuff. Other than that, start to finish. And I like when I do a locomotive, I pull the trucks apart so that I can get the side frames off, so that I can paint the side face of the wheel. So I go right down to that, and you have to, if you, depending on at what level you want to do your weathering.
Yeah. Yeah, because you also mentioned about maybe talking about airbrushes.
Oh yeah, that was supposed to be a separate show.
Oh, okay. I'll
So
hush. Don't mean to be letting too many cats
No,
out of the
I
bag.
know, but when it was originally discussed, it basically was a separate show, and then it's turned into, well, let's combine it with this, let's combine it with that, and I don't have a problem with that. But you could do a whole show on airbrushing.
Yeah, especially maintenance. And disassemble and reassemble without bending the needle.
Gosh, you could do a whole show on the maintenance of an airbrush, plenty of maintaining it, but a show on effective use of an airbrush to weather, getting some of, getting some.
Now,
of,
hang on a second, Andy. You keep saying that. Using an airbrush to weather. No. Using an airbrush, period.
Sure,
It's not just the weather.
I know. There's no question.
I don't use an airbrush to weather. Never have. The only thing I use it for is to apply paint.
Huh, you don't spray up from the bottom that dirt effect that's blowing up on the car. Huh.
That's applying paint. That's not weathering.
Okay.
And it's only that. Other than, no, seriously, you guys
Yeah.
are laughing.
No, we're laughing because point and counterpoint's starting a little early.
It's a semantics debate. My idea of weathering is
It's not semantics.
okay.
You're relating it to the weathering show, and it's not.
I'm relating it.
I'm just seeing hairs splitting in half here.
I'm relating it to whatever you're recreating in the real world. If you are putting the Tuscan red on the side of a boxcar that you're going to put decals on, then that's painting, because that's a paint. Now, if on the other hand you've got a coal hopper and you're spraying that brown fade, that light brown muddy fade on the bottom of it, you're recreating mud or dirt or ballast or dust. And that is weather effects. They're not painting these cars in the real world with that brown effect on the bottom of them. They might as well, but they're not. So I think of weathering as using paint, always using paint to recreate the effects of weather. So, for example, if you're applying the streaks on a tank car, or the streaks on a fuel tank on a locomotive, that's applying paint. You're putting that streak on there. It's a quote unquote weathering effect that we apply to our models, but you're technically applying.
Can I just split your hair that you just said then? Because you said they don't paint that brown on the bottom of that, so therefore it's weathering, not painting. Well, in real life, those trees aren't made of paint either. I mean, we can split hairs. Painting is painting.
Andy was talking about they don't put the brown dirt on the real locomotive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But he was saying that they don't paint that on there, so therefore, when we put that on there, it's a weathering effect.
I have a simple point about this.
So, I mean, you're right. It's semantics. It's
Well,
splitting hairs.
I have a simple clarification.
Painting is painting.
But I have a simple clarification. If painting is painting, anytime you're applying paint, then there is nothing that is weathering. Because everything we do that is weathering is applying paint. However, some applications of paint that paint is being applied for the purpose of recreating the natural effects that happen from weathering and exposure in the real world. When we're recreating those natural effects, we call that weathering. It's applying paint.
Andy.
Yes, sir.
I need I have got a request for a 2-minute timeout so Eric can go get his popcorn. He doesn't want to miss a word of this. He said, just give him 2 minutes and he'll be right back.
I can do 2 minutes.
Microwave popcorn.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, well, I mean, it's just style is what it is. It's a style of paint.
It is. And it is a semantic argument. I'm fully aware it's a semantic argument. But if you're going to say that airbrushing the weathering effect on the bottom of a car is not weathering, it's applied paint, it's painting, and nothing is weathering.
Andy, wait for the buzzer.
I'll keep repeating myself.
Oh, pro tip for the airbrush is always have a backup needle.
Don't worry about farm mechanic. He said, did not mean to start issues. Just wondering when Ralph was going to do the weather videos. No, you're not starting anything. Michael Connolly thought he spun something up last week. Well, yeah, he did, kind of. But
That was the start of the resin conversation. Paint.
me and Ralph have as strongly or passionately debated issues as I have with anybody in this community, hands down. And I have I have as much respect for Ralph as anybody I know out in the world, one way or the other. And he's one of the first people I come to ask their opinion on other things. It's the reason that I like to challenge and debate. It's because they're so interesting and compelling. And he's so much more right than the very few detailed things that I could ever disagree with. But I so find it interesting when I can find something that I disagree with him on. Because I don't disagree with him on most things, it's interesting what I actually do.
So you know what he's really saying, right, John?
Oh,
He's always looking for a way to get me.
Well,
in
I'm
a,
just
friend,
chiming in
in
here.
a friendly way.
I'm just gonna chime in here and say, duh.
yeah. Tell me you're not, Ralph. Let's start there. And there's times that I totally think you got me on a few things that because you debated so fervently about something. But
I'm not trying to get you on anything. All I'm trying to do is to get you to stop being single-minded. Because you got it in your mind, I got to do it this way because this is the way it's supposed to be done. It's not supposed to be done that way.
okay, I think
It's-
Got you there.
If it makes you feel any better, Andy, I find that Ralph is right more often than you.
doesn't hurt my feelings at all. Ralph's been at a lot longer about that. Now I believe there would be a problem if that were not true. Ralph's been at it a lot longer than me. However, I find it funny that I'm the one who's entrenched in historical ways of doing things. When I come at layout building and model railroading in general from the physics first principle concept, I don't care how anybody else has done it. So when I started on my layout, I thought I would probably end up with a wood substructure. But as I built, I realized I had no need for it. And I've been entirely successful so far without any wood whatsoever. So,
All right, Michael Connolly said, honest to God, I was writing something for chat when the broadcast went down earlier. Okay, that's fine, Mike.
So since you do it physics first, all right, do you change how much bank you put on a curve according to the size of the curve?
yeah, according to radius, according to that stuff, yeah. It's not a physics first.
Do you have a formula in your head?
There is some calculation initially to figure out how much would be practical, what the real world would be, and what would be practical. It's not the term physics first principle is different from physics first. It's not that I've applied physics because what we're doing is theatrics. What we're doing is like movie set stuff. We're creating a bunch of props for a movie, basically played out in real time, or a play. It's played out in real time for us. It's all theatrics, it's all Disney stuff. We're faking it because we do not have the proper physics, friction, gravity, weight, etc. So we're faking physics. Physics first principle is the concept in that it is the science of how physics is done. They don't care about the history. They don't care what anything is. They break it down to the simplest component. So Elon Musk, when he wanted to build a rocket, did not care how the shuttle worked. He said, what does it take to make a rocket? Now, what is a rocket made of? It's made of aluminum and titanium and copper. And what is the best method to take raw aluminum, raw titanium, and raw copper inside the building? What's the best process through that building to end up with a rocket on the other side? That's how I think about building a railroad. I don't care about how anybody else does it. I'll take their advice, and if it's the right way, great. Sometimes it is. But I don't at all care about the history. What does it take to get enough substructure to hold up a 2-pound locomotive, the 16-pound train of cars?
All right, Ron, I don't know if you heard us earlier, but as you well know, all our shows are recorded, so if you can't make it at the time it's live, you can always go back to Mall Railroading Live on YouTube and catch the recording. But we're also simultaneous streaming on 4 social medias now. We're actually doing YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Andy said he's going to drive me crazy finally. Put me switching through all these. Keep up with the chat.
Yeah, that's something we still need a solution to.
So Ron, if you find that the YouTube's not too good for you down there, why don't you try the Twitch? Everybody really likes the video and the audio on the Twitch, so we got a few people over there now that are watching. I hope he's saying cool just because we're doing the forest streaming and that y'all not driving me crazy with the chats.
So is IMRRO back yet?
Hadn't seen anything yet.
Go.
That might have been that 5-minute popcorn he's doing.
He got to go chop the ear corn first and chuck it.
Yeah.
Fire Mechanic 71. Do a weathering contest between Andy versus Ralph.
Oh gosh, man, that is not at all. That's not at all fair. Ralph's going to be like
Somebody
You don't-
got
don't put
a,
an artist like Ralph up against an engineer like me. Different, entirely different. The core perspective from where we come from is entirely different.
Hey, but hurry up because I'm going to have to end the stream here pretty soon. Since we had that kind of interruption, I have no idea what. I think we're coming up almost on an hour and a half.
Yeah, close.
Yeah. Oh, I guess redoing all this old computer, Andy, that fixed my keyframe issue too.
Huh.
Because I downloaded those videos. Hey, I like that 4K I was telling you about. That worked pretty good. I mean, it took me a few minutes to kind of figure that thing out, but I got them copied down and I put them in Pinnacle and I had no problems with them like I have been. Everything's running just fine.
Love 4K. Love it.
Well, that's that 4K downloader.
Yeah.
But
There's a bunch of ways to skin that cat. I'm really perturbed that. I'm really perturbed that we had that experience with Google. Not that I already didn't have that opinion of Google Chrome already. I mean, I've been Google Chrome right here in front of me now, it appears, but that's all I use it for. That use it. Drives me crazy for most other things. Don't get me wrong, Firefox has been around forever, but yeah, Rod says it's a good looking backdrop, Chris. It is, isn't it, Rod? He's done a spectacular job. So now I'll take it up with Chris by arguing about my photo backdrops.
oh.
Because you know it's a useless argument with me.
Useless. No, I could still argue that one with you right now. I still have the same opinion, and you still.
We haven't finished the paint thing. Why start something new?
I am fully content to complete that anytime. I have a very simple concept on it.
I tell you what, I'm going to give you 10 minutes. Finish it up. Eric should be back by now with his popcorn.
So
Follow?
my contention is, it's not weathering. It's
Okay.
painting.
Okay.
What I do is I apply paint to achieve a weathering effect.
So what do you call weathering? Give me an example of something.
I just explained it to you. I apply paint to achieve a weathered effect.
Okay.
Because
So
I cannot weather something like Mother Nature does because I'm working with plastic. Plastic doesn't rust. So I have to apply paint to make it look like it.
right. So
That's not weathering,
that's paint.
that's painting.
Okay. It's just I knew we were in
The whole
argument.
the whole effect is weathering.
A weathered effect or the act of then there's no verb for weathering that is a verb. There is a weathered, a car that has been weathered, but weathering can't be used as a verb because there is no action that is weathering. The action that I call weathering, you call that action painting. No matter what it is, if you're applying oil paints to put streaks on the side of a cylindrical hopper, you call that painting. I don't. I think that is weathering. It
It's
is
applying
paint, but all kinds of things are applying paint. That's a very loose term to apply paint.
You're using the adjective.
I'm speaking about right. Ralph is using.
You're speaking of the style of painting.
But I'm speaking of it as a verb. There's an action to do something that's weathering. When you are using paint, powders, or whatever, to recreate the effect of weathering, I call that weathering as a verb. If that's fine, which I've heard Ralph say weathering as a verb. However, his dispute would say that if you're airbrushing, you're painting, sometimes you are, sometimes you're weathering, sometimes you're dyeing, sometimes you're, there's an airbrush is a tool. Yes, there are verbs that refer to airbrushing.
And all that an airbrush does is apply paint.
That would be getting nickel.
That's all it does.
Mostly, yes.
So developing the techniques with an airbrush on how to paint gives you the desired effect that you're looking for. Or like I'm looking for when I do my weathering.
When you do your weathering, not your painting.
Michael?
So if you use a sponge to weather something, do you call that painting? If you're using a sponge to apply paint.
Yes, it's painting. It's painting.
Right, so you're applying gouache to recreate the rust pitting that happens on the side of a car. Do you call what you're doing painting? I understand that you are technically painting. No dispute there whatsoever that you are in the process of applying paint. You're painting. Gotcha. A lot of us call that weathering when you're applying paint in that distinct way, because just saying painting is a bit non-specific.
Now, I know one thing I'm going to say right now. Michael?
You got it.
We're going to swap places. You're the educator, not me. And they're talking about verbs and adverbs and adjectives and train modeling. Talking about weathering.
Well,
yeah, Michael and I are going to change places here. He's the educator. I'm going to let him have this seat.
It's not about modeling. We don't have to debate words to model. I could sit here in my house by myself and model without needing language one way or the other. What we're doing is communicating about our hobby. And to do so, we have to communicate effectively. Now, granted, some of this is opinion. There's not a right or wrong about this between me and Ralph. This is an entirely opinion. Both are technically correct. You are technically painting. That is in every way an adequate description and technically correct. It's not what I think is the most popular or common terminology used in the hobby. In our hobby, most of the time, when you're applying the effects that recreate the natural effect of weathering, you are acting by using a verb that you are weathering.
That's the definition of weathering. We don't use atmosphere.
That's exactly right. There's no question you're using paint when you weather. What I find the challenge that I think that we have now is that if you're using a sponge, if it were, Ralph didn't say it this way, so that's not the case. But what I was trying to clarify is if you used a sponge to apply paint, they call that weathering, but used an airbrush to apply paint for the exact same effect, but called it something different, painting, that would confuse me.
The unfortunate part of your statement is you don't get the exact same effect from those two things.
No question.
Airbrushing and sponging, you do not get the same effect.
No.
So
You're
But
right.
you're still applying paint.
that's right.
You still
You're
get
applying paint.
right. You're still doing the same action. Your end result, the minuscule detail particulars of your end result will vary. But the same thing is true if you paint a wall. If you paint it with a brush, if you paint it with a roller, if you paint it with a Wagner sprayer, you are painting, regardless one way or the other. You're painting. The quality of the results will vary between those different processes, but you're painting. But we call those different things. I mean, even in the construction trade, if you're doing different types of finish, you don't necessarily call those painting, even though you may be applying paint. You may call it some other type of faux finish or whatever. There are various types of applications of paint that are not called painting. They're called other things, like kickling or.
Yeah, I'm glad y'all can't see the Twitch chat.
Yeah, I had looked over there.
You don't want to.
Go ahead, Johnny. Go ahead. Come on.
Farm Mechanic says 71. LOL. This is better than watching the Three Stooges.
Yeah.
Michael Connolly to my comment earlier was grammar. My teaching is done for the week.
Hey, I would hate for somebody to think that this is some dispute strictly over grammar. The dispute in the language comes down to the thinking of it about an airbrush and how we communicate and express that as we're talking about it. I think an airbrush is a spectacular weathering tool, not because I'm that great at it, but because I watch other people weather with an airbrush do great work. Not all kinds of tech.
Hang on a second. All you're doing is adding paint. You're not weathering. All you're doing is adding
There we go again.
paint to look like spatter. That's
Okay.
all it's doing. That's not weathering.
Okay.
It's a weathering effect.
I'm adding
No,
dirt.
not even that. That's the effect of road grime, spatter,
Wait.
dirt that gets kicked up. That's not weathering.
It's just using an airbrush in the hobby in general.
Okay.
It saves you. It can save you money. Well, you can even look at it that way. If you learn how to use an airbrush properly, where you have control over it, where you can paint most of your models that you're building, that you're going out and buying spray cans for. Because after you invest in the airbrush and the pump, spray cans are what now, $8 to $13 a pop. Okay,
Yep.
and you can make a 2-ounce bottle that you buy for $6.99 last. Okay,
Longer than a spray can by about 3.5 times.
I would say about 4 times like a spray can. So you learn how to use it. Learn how to you sit there, and there's a couple of videos, and go and get away from the modeling people, get into the airbrushing world, and go for the basics. And they have what they call a J stroke, and you learn how to master the J stroke, and that will open up the airbrushing world, because that just coordinates your finger and your brain to move down and backwards in a nice smooth arc, and then you have total control of your airbrush, and then you don't worry about it anymore. Then you can paint next to something with minimal masking by just holding up a little card or a piece of paper on your layout and touching something up after you set a model in place. Learn how to use it. I mean, airbrush is great for more than just weathering, Andy.
Well, obviously, I use it with dyes and pigments and all kinds of things. But in weathering, as we were talking about, so Ralph's argument may be, and I may have missed this, it may be that he doesn't consider dirt weather, because it's not truly weather. I think of weathering as everything you do to recreate the effects of a car that happens to that car after it leaves a paint shop on the prototype. As it goes up and down the road for millions of miles, what happens to it? The paint degrades and fades. Fading, that's a weathering effect, and you are recreating not the effect of weather, you're creating the effect of UV sunlight. I think of weathering as the application of dirt, grime, particulate coal dust, soot, and steam era. I think of all of that as weathering. That's my gut instinct as to what weathering is. Everything that takes a factory fresh, as new stock paint job and brings that down to something that has lived in the real world for a while. All of those are things that are in that broad category of weathering, right?
Okay. I got
right.
3 here I'm going to read off. And
Okay.
it's only going to be 5 minutes for this one question. And then I'm going to wind the show up. 1, Ron Boyce, being the clown he is, he went round 3, LOL. Dale PRR, this is like watching Abbott and Costello's Who's on First.
Who's on first?
LOL. Alright, here's the question. You got 5 minutes and then we're going to end the show. It's 11:36 now, so this is from Michael Conley. So if I apply graffiti on a boxcar, is that painting or weathering?
Painting.
Andy,
That's painting.
That's tough. I
That's
still
painting. No, that's easy. That's painting.
okay. So what if you applied a decal, decal, whatever,
of graffiti?
of graffiti?
There's no painting.
It was painted on the decal. Whether it was printed or not, it's a picture of a painting on the side of a
It's painting.
boxcar.
So it's a picture, but it was a picture. Of a,
Weathering. Here's the difference. Weathering occurs naturally. Painting does not.
Well, I'm okay with that, but if that's true, then recreating dirt is definitely weathering. I think of it as natural. I do agree. That's a really good challenge, Michael. I think that the application of graffiti challenges my opinion largely because I'm not sure that it fits into either of the categories cleanly. Now, in the real world, if I took a bunch of rattle cans out at 2 a.m. and went down here to spray paint some cars, that's clearly painting. So it's closer to painting, but you can apply decals or use all kinds of different things to do it. You often apply it as part of your weathering process, but it's not a very.
I see the dirt thing as weathering too, for the same reason.
Right, I think of dirt as weathering. Graffiti, I almost think of it as an independent category, that it doesn't cleanly fit into any category. It is its own thing. The application of graffiti is just that, the application of graffiti.
So
If somebody asked, if I was applying graffiti to a car and somebody asked me what I was doing, I would say I put graffiti on the side of a car. I wouldn't say it was weathering. I wouldn't say it was decaling, and I wouldn't say it was painting. I would say I'm applying graffiti. I would be specific.
what part of this is airbrushed and what part is not?
Oh, probably the trucks, maybe. Probably none of it.
No.
Did you paint the car recently or just weather?
That's way too hard to tell. The problem is okay. So, but we're talking about difference in skill levels here, right? So, I would consider Ralph to be a what's the word? What's the artisan?
Okay.
Right?
Take the car out of the picture. Look at the plate girder. Can you see weathering on there?
Well, yeah.
It's just paint. I put paint on, I took it off, and that was the result of taking it off. The end result is called weathering, but what I'm doing is painting.
Okay, so well, how do you call that weathering instead of? You could say that it's weathered, but that's a minor linguistic argument. If I call you to talk about something and I say, "What are you doing?" and you're sitting there, rusting truck side frames or whatever with paint, are you going to tell me you're painting?
Yes, I am.
You'll say you're painting.
I do most of that work with paintbrush
No question.
and sponges.
Right, but if you're sitting there speckling rust on it, I call you, you're going to say I painted. What do you painted? Those speckles of rust. It's not wrong. It's technically correct. I just think that if you call 10 modelers that were doing that, I think 9 of them would say, I weathered a freight car. Because that's what I see them say on YouTube all the time. They're, we're going to weather this freight car today. They don't say we're going to paint rust on the side of the car. It's the same thing. Either way.
Oops.
Alright.
Magnus, my
1 minute.
Oh, I think we clarified it, but I think Ralph's is absolutely as right as he can be about this. I still feel like I'm as right too. I don't think you can be wrong either way. I think you can call it painting either way. I think the challenge is if you're titling a YouTube video as to applying rust to the bottom of a gondola, would you, and you say I painted rust on the side of a gondola, would that get you the YouTube results that you want, as opposed to saying that you're weathering a gondola? My instinct is that most people would say that they were weathering a gondola in their YouTube title, as opposed to painting rust on a gondola.
And you have to take it. This is going to sound wrong, and don't get me wrong. I have nothing against anybody here. You have to take it to the lowest denominator. Everybody calls it weathering. That's what they're looking for when they're going on YouTube.
Right.
And yes, it is painting, and like I said, weathering is the end result. Weathered vehicle.
Okay, so you don't think of doing weathering as a verb action. What happens if you're using powders? What are you doing?
I'm brushing them on. I try not to use powders. The only powders I use are for the smoke stain on the top.
Right, so if you're doing that, and I call you on the phone and say, well, what are you doing? What do you say you're doing? You're going to be specific. You're going to say, I'm powdering
I'm applying soot. I'm applying soot along the roof of the car.
Absolutely. I like the specific answers. I'm a big fan of being precise in your speech. Totally like the being precise.
And when you ask me, what am I doing when I'm painting rust streaks on the side? I'll tell you, I'm painting rust streaks on the side of the car.
I have a feeling that if you actually titled that YouTube video painting rust on the side of a car or whatever you wanted, something similar, I think what you would actually find is people viewing that more because that's oh wow, wait, you can actually do it that way too? Let me check that out.
Possibly. The problem is it's hard to be precise. You're doing a video that can take a bunch of time. If Ralph was producing a video, as he has done many times, that is doing the fuel stain and using some aim powders to soot the a few areas of the locomotive, and he's applying some rust streaking, and he's doing grime, and he's painting the paint, and that's one video. It's not 5 separate videos where he can be precise and say that he's painting grime streaks of grime or painting a fuel leak stain. He can be precise, but when you have to be vague because you're putting a 20-minute video together that is doing all of those things, how do you say that you're painting? That's when us moderators typically say they're weathering as a verb.
Titling video or weathering videos is one thing, but then when you actually go into like the description or the metadata for the video for what the search engines look for or the web crawler, that's where you put in, painting rust. Or,
no argument whatsoever. And in that case, back to the original argument, or the original disagreement about the language of this, I think it's entirely accurate to say that you are painting the dust effect on the bottom of a freight car. Say paint there works entirely. But when I do so, I'm doing so in the action of weathering a car.
But if I'm going to search a video for painting a locomotive, I'm probably going to be looking for a video of somebody actually completely repainting the locomotive.
Exactly. It gives a different indicator. When you say weathering, it's saying a precise thing about what your goal and end result should be. If you say painting, then what people are expecting is probably a clean.
Okay, but wait a minute. You can solve that whole problem by simply titling it "Painting Weather Effects on a Boxcar."
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
Ding, ding, ding,
hey, realistically, you are right though, because a word is what we understand as a collective making.
That's right.
Right.
Both are
I
right.
mean, we understand blue is blue because that, as a collective, we have made blue. So, as a collective, yes, the modeling industry has dubbed the Boeing weather.
That's right.
Right,
It's
and
like
that goes across every media of modeling. You know, from the war gamers to the war tank builders to the airplane people to the gamers and everything else. Everybody weathers.
All right, tell you what, we got to go. Michael, his last is, Andy is a broader definition of weathering. Ralph is a narrower one.
I
Okay.
think Ralph's being more
That's fair.
specific. I think Ralph's being more specific.
I like
And
Dave Piper's comment.
Ralph is the scalpel and Andy is the spoon.
Well,
No, he's the hammer. He's the hammer.
mine's the broader definition that I'm encapsulating a big picture of it, and Ralph's being specific, and that's great because that both are right. It's a matter of proportion and scale in the conversation. But yeah, I like Dave Piper's comment too. So it's painting us as dirty, then it's weathering, and I know it's a really vague use of it all. I agree.
all right, appreciate everybody coming in.
So now you have something to look forward to because our point counterpoint will continue this. Not so much on the paint airbrush thing, but
On other
On
Another
topics.
topic we could possibly come up with.
oh yeah, like somebody else had one there.
And once I finally end this show, if I ever do, I got to go to Amazon and get me one of those boxing bells to put up on my table.
Just get a judge's gavel.
What? Just one more thing, Johnny. I think the more appropriate, I think the more appropriate analogy here is Ralph is a scalpel, whereas Andy is a sawzall.
Or a chainsaw. A chainsaw maybe.
Chainsaw, absolutely,
He likes to use a chainsaw.
absolutely.
All righty. I want to thank the people at Twitch for watching tonight. We're just now starting this, and CPR Train was in the chat, so was Farm Mechanic 71. Appreciate y'all coming in. Hopefully we'll get more of the chats where we can see them all. Yeah, Dave Piper, Ford versus Chevy. I shouldn't have said that. Okay. But anyway.
Dodge.
I appreciate everybody coming in tonight, and as always, we got one more show left this month next week, so who knows what's going to happen next week. You may see Michael Connolly sitting in this chair instead of me.
There you go. Or
John, you just need to set a timer. 2 minutes, your side. 2 minutes, your side. Do like the news anchor mediators.
Yeah.
Next day.
All right, I want to thank everybody for coming in tonight and chat. And hopefully, Eric, you caught the last part of that discussion while you was eating your popcorn. You never did let us know you was coming back. But anyway. All right, we've got one show left. That'll be next Thursday night on the 29th. And then in September, we start our new season for 2020, so I will have the calendar updated and going on millrailroadinglive.com, so you can go there and check. I gotta go kill this fly. It's driving me nuts.
Squirrel.
Yeah. So y'all have a good night. I'm cutting this thing off right now.
hey, John.
Bye.
John.
Good, Johnny.